I hate that.
I
And
hate that
Tom,
too.
we go
I
to get
know. I don't mean to. It's not even like I really be doing it on purpose. Like I don't know when you're
Is
gonna
it?
click
I
the
feel like
button.
you do it on purpose.
I promise you I don't. It's just that I be like, I told you
I
that's
want
like my nerves.
We need to have like blooper reels. People wouldn't even believe us.
I know the behind the scenes, right? They be like, these heifers. Anywho,
Hi,
we're
y'all.
back.
Good evening. Good night.
Hello, hello,
Higher.
hello.
How you doing? How your mama doing? How your daddy and
How
them
you
doing?
doing? How your people doing?
Hi,
So good.
everybody. Good evening and welcome to the Shake Hayo. We are live tonight. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us, if this is your first time with the Shake Hayo, we welcome you and thank you for coming. If you've been here before, you already know what it is. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate we appreciate you returning and supporting us on this journey. Yeah. So if you don't know what the Shea Kayol is about, we are women of valor. We are sisters, and I have a bunch of other sisters. So just because you don't see them, don't mean they ain't here. But but this is my sister though. But
Sister.
we are a group of women who have, you know what? We are women. We're women of valor, and
Yep.
our purpose is to ask people to come on this journey um, that we call life, as we explore it, as we grow mentally, physically, emotionally, as well as spiritually as women, as we grow in these areas, even as sisters and in sisterhood. And we ask people to come along this journey in hopes that they would be able to do the same in their own lives. So, in case you don't know who I am, I'm Tamaria Metia, aka Tam, and this is my lovely sister, Stacy, aka Cece, my sissy.
Sissy.
And
What
together,
up, everybody?
and together, we are Tam and Stacy, and you are
All
joining us
day.
for 120 days of intention. This has been already a journey, and
Yeah.
we're only in day 6. Um, this has been a journey for us.
Yes.
To even do this. The beauty of this is that we were in a space, for those that don't know, of changes in our own life. And you know what? We were making these declarations out loud and to each other,
Mm-hmm.
as sisters sometimes do, and partnering with each other and holding each other accountable and being accountability partners with one another, and said, you know what? We have some really dope conversations sometimes.
Conversations. Word.
And it would be great if other people could be a part of that. Because you know what? I know we're not the only ones that are in this space at this time,
Yeah.
in this place in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our mission, is to hopefully, um, I don't know, plant a seed, impact somebody the way that we, have a tendency to impact each
Like
other,
each other.
in a positive and uplifting way. And yeah, so this is what 120 Days of Intentions are about. That's how it came about. And we hope that, of course, you all get something out of it. So we welcome you to give us some coughing, because we're in that
Mm.
space right now of
Word.
recovery. Excuse me, and I'm about to go in right
COVID trying to do us dirty. But it's all right because we are going to remain intentional, remain focused, and not let COVID take us down
now.
or
Yes.
deter us from our mission and our goal.
Yeah.
It has invaded our bodies, though.
It did. It has. It has. Yesterday was not a good day for the kid. Like, it's not a
Yeah,
good day for the kid.
yesterday was a
Like, I
rough one.
was
Yeah.
down. But always I thank God for life each and every day.
Amen.
I thank Him that He allowed me the ability to be together tonight, today, to get this together, because I did not want to feel like I did yesterday, bro. It was terrible. It was terrible.
I know. I know. That's
So
how I felt those first 2 days.
yeah,
I know.
I couldn't, and I
Yeah,
feel the
COVID
headache
is
dropping
wilding.
too. So that
Yeah, COVID is wilding. COVID is
it's wild
definitely
out,
wilding.
right? And like
Yeah.
I keep saying, it
COVID
would
is being a little too damn intentional for me.
you know what I'm saying? I needed to quit, bro. Like,
I ain't asked to take her on the journey. She could go be
she could go
unintentional
somewhere.
some
Yeah,
damn
she could go
well.
under the journey for all I care. Like, I'm so
Word, she wildin'.
she is
For
wilding. And then
real.
it's like, ew, like
Yeah, like who wants to be feeling sick? And I was telling a client today, I was like, yo, I feel like I got like a bunch of fluid on my lungs and on my chest. Like I feel like
It's
I
crazy.
can't, like my voice is changing. I just sound crazy. I feel like
It's
when I
think you up. It's
go
like,
from, yeah, like if I walk from the bedroom to the kitchen, I be like needing to take a break.
I'm
I'm
telling you,
like, dang.
this thing
Yeah, so
is
COVID is
different.
wilding.
Wilding.
Meanwhile, in the United States, they trying to end all the COVID pandemic
That's what I'm saying. It would be
exceptions, and yeah, while it's
last
back
day,
and booming.
last day of a pandemic. We get it. Like,
Word.
yo.
Trifling. Try Iceland.
But we're here though. We're here.
But we here though. And we still gonna be great.
Yes, positive mold. I might have to take a slight walk away. I'm just telling you right
Gotcha. Well, I think with that being said, let's just jump right into it. We're gonna
Sure.
keep it short, sweet, and to the point tonight. I think tonight's topic, ironically, is right on time.
It
Support is not
is.
competition. Because I think, I think we've talked about every day up until this point about like our journey and being able to come together. And I think the beautiful thing about us, and there's so many beautiful things about who we are as sisters, and our relationship, and just how we've watched each other grow and just been a part of that journey for each other, very organically, is I think you and I, without saying, have always lived like this. And I don't think that people genuinely can say that as sisters sometimes, but I think support is not competition, right?
Yeah.
I think that we've always been able to see our relationship, um, and who we are as individuals as a collaborative. We've never ever kind of looked at it in a way of competition with one another. I
Right.
think I think you're a little bit more competitive. I think it's like just as a competitive person than I am. And I think even with that, like to
You got
highlight
pressure in
that,
the
like
ass with your body.
like even I hate you right now. But even with that, I think we find ways to support those spaces for each other, right? Like I'm not a super competitive person, but you always find a way to like encourage and motivate and push me forward. And you are a competitive, more competitive than I am. Um, and but yet never make me feel small, never make me feel dismissed. um, so I think what better way, or what better two people to talk about how support is not competition when we talk about that amongst sisters, amongst women, and building a community, and what that looks like. So I think in spite of COVID being disrespectful,
Disrespectful.
tonight's topic is right on time.
I think so too. And I appreciate that, Sissy. Thank you.
Of
Oh,
course.
Sissy gave me flowers. Shut up.
So damn emotional. Shut the hell up.
It's my birthday week.
Any, it's your birthday week, so you gotta get better so you can get super
I gotta
cute by
get better.
Thursday.
I promise if I feel like I did yesterday on my birthday, I'll be tight.
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. We gotta be outside having some drink or something. Some steak. Didn't you
Something.
want steak?
I did want steak. I ain't gonna hold you. I did want steak.
Let's see how
Either
this
that or
goes.
lamb. Either that or lamb.
Oh,
You know
I'm
how it
having
was.
lamb tonight, but I'll have it again for you. I don't care. I'm having lamb tonight, lamb over rice. I didn't cook it.
Oh, okay. Hello, yeah.
Girl, you know I didn't cook that.
I was about to say, how you gonna have lamb over rice? I ain't over there, bro.
Word.
Like you live around the corner.
No,
Anyway.
Demetrius found some joint that said gyro, and well, here we are.
Talk to my brother. That's what I'm doing. Talk to my brother.
Right. So we'll see how this go. I'll go after the tonight show. I
Good
mean,
luck.
my Swedish fish just in case.
I can't. I'm done.
Mm.
Well, with that, to keep on this roll, y'all have to excuse me. Uh, yeah, the nighttime is not the best time for me, but y'all have to
Yeah.
excuse me a little bit. But I will say, along even with this topic, this is funny because this is something like the women in and within my community, we kind of talk about this a lot. The sisters that I know, and um, we talk about what support is, right? Because I think what's funny is, and I love how this breakdown is for tonight, because I don't think people think that it's a like that they would have an issue with knowing how to support or what it is to support.
Bro.
But we have an issue, and let's just be flat out honest about it. Um, we have an issue with honesty. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And not honesty, but about supporting each other and being
Supporting each other honestly. Being honestly supportive.
honestly supporting each other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't this, I know some people, we talk about being in a diaspora, especially here in the United States. Um, we talk about what the impact of post slavery, post Reconstruction
Yeah.
has done to our
Mm-hmm.
communities, the attitudes, the trauma
Yeah.
responses in which we've all
Mm-hmm.
developed over these last, I don't know, going over 400 years at this point.
Word.
But then there is a part, although I do not negate those things. I don't
Mm-hmm.
negate them.
They are contributing factors.
They are
Absolutely.
contributing factors. But however, even with every uh most situations, even trauma, when we talk about trauma responses
Mm-hmm.
a lot too, there's a part that you also have to take responsibility for and
And
accountability
accountability for.
after the fact, right?
Right.
You have to say, although I understand this, that doesn't mean I
How
have
do
to.
I show up?
How do I show? I don't
Right.
have to be a victim of
And
that,
how do I not perpetuate that?
right?
How do I
And
not be a victim? But then how do I not perpetuate that
right,
as
because I
well?
think we've kind of perpetuated. I think we've ran
Mm-hmm.
this one into the ground. Like, I'm over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the sad part is that there's this level of project. You know how I feel about this thing too. Like, I feel like there's also this level of projection
Mm-hmm.
that has been placed on us in particular. So in particular with Black women and how we show up for each other.
Right.
And there's this undertone that sisters can't get along. Well, you know how sisters are. They can be competitive. They can be, I think there's a healthy competition that can happen,
Right. And
right?
if your competitive spirit is gonna motivate me to be great, then why not embrace it, right? But I
Right.
think to your point is that we've been so conditioned for that competitive spirit to make me envious of you, to
Right.
make me resent your drive, make
Right.
me resent your passion in some kind of way. The narrative then becomes you think you're better than me.
Right.
But sis, like I'm just out here being the best me and like I'm just want to win. So I'm going to show up, right? And I'm going to show up for you too. But if
Right.
you show up for yourself for some mediocreness or I can't say words,
Not
but if
good.
you're being mediocre, yes, if you're being mediocre and then I show up and so then my support level changes based on how much energy you putting into your project,
Right.
you mad at me. Like I don't understand how that happens. But I understand how it happens, right? Because again, it's a lot of that projection. It's a lot of that mentality, that slave mentality that people talk about, right? Like we've just been so conditioned to be in competition with one another that we don't know how to honestly support our sisters. We
No, we
don't know how to not see each other as the competition rather than as the motivation, right?
like,
As
how
the
does that get
example
those lines? Like, I want to
get
understand
crossed.
sometimes those lines
Word.
get crossed because then for all that we talk, right? For some women,
Mm-hmm.
talk all of that, but yet you don't know how to like effectively communicate,
Kate, yeah.
to be able to give a level of support or to know
Mm-hmm.
how to communicate on how to show up. So I kind of like how it kind of lays out tonight. Um,
Yeah. Good, good, good.
that you kind of broke that down. I'm very proud of you for that one because
Thank you. I do try. I
oh,
have some strong points.
you do. So I'm gonna let you
Yeah, let's jump into it.
straight with this
Mhm. So support is not a competition. That's what we on tonight. Because we've
support.
been talking about setting our goals. We've been talking about being intentional. And tonight we want to follow up because one of the points that we did bring home very early on in this process is that this is not intended to be done in isolation. It is not intended to be done alone, right? We need to be encouraged. We need to be supported. We need to be motivated. And we need to be reminded sometimes because life is going to life. And when life is happening, sometimes we get very discouraged. And if we don't have a community of support, if we don't have a sister that we have in our corner supporting us, then what do we have, right, to keep
Mhm.
going? And so tonight, like I said, I think tonight's topic is like right on time in comparison to the other things that we've talked about. Once you've decided on your goals and now you're intentional and now you have your plan, start building your team, right? Like start building your support systems. Know who, when it gets thick, who can you call on to get that honest feedback? Know who can you call on to be a resource, right? Or who can you call on that's going to be like, girl, you are working hard and it's okay to take a break. Don't stop, but take a break, right? And I support that in your process. So yeah, so let's get into it.
So defining support. Now,
Yes, because we have to always define our words. Tamara needs us to understand our words, which I will say on this process has been super helpful for me because I think we do take for granted the language, like in just speaking something and having like a general understanding. But I think if people really start to like look up basic words that they use every day, they probably will be able to use them a lot differently and more correctly. Um, they would be way better communicators.
way better
But yeah.
communicators. Well, I like Oxford languages, and I
Mm-hmm.
do, so I have support as bear all or part of the weight of, hold up, to give assistance to, especially in this case financially, give assistance to, enable to function or act, a thing that bears the weight of something or keeps it upright, material assistance. That's what I have. I like that though.
Yeah, that was the same. That's the same definition I have. Um, for me, what resonated was bear all or
Yeah.
part of the weight, hold up, give assistance, right? So just think about that for a minute. Like if you're really gonna show up and be a support for somebody, that's the whole idea is that you're gonna like hold them up. You're gonna
Right.
help. You're gonna be a support, right? You're gonna enhance whatever it is they already have going on. And
Mm-hmm.
again, when you're doing that genuinely and honestly, you don't have time to look at it as a competition because you recognize that again to thank you face ID, to bear all or part of the weight, like that's a collaborative effort,
It is. It is.
right?
It
So
also
how
lets
can I,
us know the importance of that next person, right?
right,
I like even
give
the word listen.
assistance
It keeps it upright.
up, right, exactly,
I like that
yeah.
because that's what we're up. Ultimately, that's what that it simply is, right? And that's like the
And if
most
you upright, then you haven't fallen,
right, right.
right? So if we're holding each other up, then we recognize that we are both valued in this situation. We are both valued
Yeah.
in this process. And maybe if I get in my head and just focus on me, then I can't help hold you. I can't bear some of that weight to keep you upright. And then you fall. And then if you fall, not before long, I'm going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when we think about that, that's also what resonated for me is like, wow, that's what support means.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's like a building. Um,
Yep.
I don't know if you know this, but like I had wrote this thing about. Well, I have a whole series, bro. Like it's like the deconstruction itself. So I go
Mm,
through a deconstruction phase, reconstruction, and then structure. Like once you're built up, right?
mm-hmm,
And but I took it from like just me. I get into one avenue. I go down a rabbit hole. But I took it from the construction, like literally from a construction viewpoint
Perspective. Yeah.
perspective. And then so in it, when I'm thinking about this too, support, when you talk about like those beams, right? Even in a building,
Mm,
structure of the building, your beams are there to uphold the structure. It's
structure.
so think
Yep.
about when those supports are not there, what happens in the process. So even if we're talking about the human body, you as a person, as this construct, right? As this
Hmm.
building or structure, right? When you don't have those supports in place,
Yeah.
it makes it kind of hard for
Hard.
you to stand a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that automatically that kind of brought me to that. And and if we start to think about it in that way, right? In that same way, you know, if I look at you as a support beam for me, you continue
Right.
to hold me up. This is not just a one time deal in life. You know what I'm saying? I'm blessed because I know, even up until this point, like throughout life, you've held,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And not to say we haven't had our our differences. We've had differences.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the beauty of that is when one needed the other one, we've always shown
Right.
up and
Uh,
been that structure of some sort. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
just think about that throughout your life. Like, who am I if I don't have those support systems,
Supports.
those support beings in place?
Yeah.
It's a thought. Where you want to
Hmm.
go with this?
So what I want to do, kind of like in the interest of time, I do want to go to like how to create a community of support, because I
Okay.
think for the people that's what's so important. I mean, for us too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what we're trying to figure out. How do we create a supportive community? How do we create support within our friends, within our siblings, within our families, right? So there was a few characteristics that kind of stood out for me, um that I was like, oh, like word, like here's some basic tenets that you need to create a supportive community. And the first one is gathering people who have an expertise and a stake in the issue. So when I first read this, I was like, well, but I had to sit with it for a minute, and then I sat with it, and what I came up with is that, okay, it brought me back to our conversation when we were talking about something, and I was like, well, it's not like we're experts, and you were like, well, what makes you an expert is your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, boom, gathering those who have an expertise and stake in the issue. So
Mm-hmm.
that made me think, like, right, so in my support system, I do want people that have some shared lived experiences as myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously not everything, but that's important. And sometimes you hear, like in the human service field or social service community, they say like, be around like-minded people. I think this is a little bit different, and I kind of like it a little bit better, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not that we have to be like-minded, because I think that's something that can develop regardless of your experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But to have an expertise in something as a collaborative, it's like we share this experience, we share, this thing, and so you're an expert in it from what you've gone through, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm an expert in it and what I've gone through, and so because of that, you have a stake in how this plays out,
Right.
and then I have a stake in how it plays out. And so
Right.
when we come together, it makes sense for the both of us, right? What do you think? Like,
So I agree with that. The part I actually like about it is to have a stake in the issue.
mm,
When you have, because I agree. Um, we don't always have to be. We could be on the same page. We
right,
don't have to be of like the same like mind
right,
things, right? Because I might not see it the way that you do. However, your
right.
passion for it, right? And because I know you and your passion for it, and I see the direction maybe that you want to go, it
Hmm.
allows me to be invested. And so when you take and you have a stake in the issue, you're invested, you know.
Hmm.
So a lot of times people think I don't always have to agree
Right.
everything. direction that you're going. As long, like, I'm always a firm believer, if it ain't hurting anybody else, then hey,
Right, rock out.
and it ain't gonna hurt you in any kind of way. All right, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Let me, because sometimes I can see what you can't see, and that's the
See.
other part of that, right? I can think about it. We talk about this all the time. I have a business mind,
Right.
so my mind is, I automatically go into risk assessments. Like, what
Right.
are the risks? What are the threats? What are your strengths? Like, what
Word.
are we
Can I
talking
get a
about?
SWAT going?
I need a
Can we do a
SWAT
SWAT?
going right now. Um, and so I'm always in that space of risk assessing things, but also because, all right, how's the best way that I can utilize what it is that I know, my
Right.
expertise, what it is I know,
Exactly.
and use it in investing in what it is that you're trying to do. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It doesn't cost me anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can shuck and
Right.
jive all day, but for me to say, well, did you think about this, sissy? Did you look at it
Right.
from this
Right.
perspective? I'm just saying.
So it's funny that you flow into that because that's like characteristic number two, encourage diverse perspectives, right? So when you're talking about supportive community and having expertise and people taking the stake, you have to be open to diverse perspectives
Yes.
because you need people to come in with a different eye, with a different thought process, right? To pick up what maybe you didn't pick up. And not necessarily because you didn't know, but again, if that's not your skill set, if that's not your talent, if that's not your gift, you may have just missed it just because. But when you
Mm-hmm.
open these different perspectives, then now someone offers you a different thought, a different idea, a different way to do it. And it's like, oh, boom, I didn't even think about that.
Right.
So now it takes that whole next thing on another level. Now there's some elevation happening, right? So I'm like, wow, like okay, that makes sense. And then the third point on that for me, which I thought was super dope, it was like follow the energy of the community,
What the third
allow
one
for or
was?
yeah. So after encourage diverse perspectives, follow the energy of the community, right? And allow things to happen organically. The only way you're genuinely and truly going to be able to do that is if we're all invested. If you're coming with your ideas and you're not being muted,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I'm gonna ask you to come be a part of my support system, be a part of what I'm trying to do, be a part of my mission. But if you offer any suggestion and I'm like, oh no, we're not working on that right now. Oh no, don't worry about it. Like, and I'm just trying to control the conversation and control the energy. We're not we're not gelling, we're not learning from each other, we're not being open to
Mm-hmm.
whatever the universe is trying to give us.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was like, wow, if you can create those three tenets,
Mm-hmm.
that is like, and sometimes, and I say create, but I even offer it, if you can take a look at the people that you have in your support circle
Absolutely.
and see, are these things present, assess that, right? If you're feeling unsupported, if you're feeling like, yo, every time I come up with an idea, they shoot me down, or every time I'm going through something, they coming at me just with like one linear way. There's no creativity, there's no diversity. Like they just got me in this box. Like assess your support system, your
No.
community, your network,
And be okay with assessing
and
it,
be
right?
okay with that.
Because ultimately, that's the thing. I think the other part of that, I think, is we're afraid to even
Hmm.
say when maybe us collaborating doesn't work, right? That's
Right.
okay, because right now what I'm needing right now is, like you said, diverse perspective. I need different ideas to kind of flow if that's the
Hmm.
case. But like you, and then I love the fact of thought, because you know how I am about energy, right? Energy.
Right.
I'm all about the energy, right? You're not coming with the positive, because I'm always positive and upbeat.
Right.
So I'm optimistic. So don't come with me with can'ts, right?
Right.
I'm
This ain't gonna
that
work.
person. Don't come with me with
This
can'ts.
ain't gonna work. Don't
Tell
try
me
that.
how it can
Oh,
get done. You know what I mean?
right.
And that's even in a collaborative mode. Now, if it's something that's impossible to do, right? Because I don't believe anything's impossible. But if right now is not the time, then even on energy flow, I'm a positive, upbeat person, or I'm trying to keep the positive flow, that energy going. Say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, not saying that it's totally impossible. When I'm saying we don't have the proper resources at this time in order to make this specific thing work,
And
this
that's again
would need
diversity and perspective,
perspectives. Correct.
right?
Need that.
Because, right, sometimes you need someone to say, like we continue to say, you are very big picture, you are very, broad strokes. And sometimes you need someone to come in and say, okay, like that's cool. Maybe we take that and we put it on our long term board.
Right.
But what are the things that need to happen short term to get there? Right? So, boom. Now, but if you're not open to that perspective, if you're not able to hear that, and you're just like, nope, that's my goal, that's what I'm going for, and I ain't straying, then it's like, all right, you're not going to have a very supportive community because there's not going to be room for any other perspective or any other thought.
I bet the situations like that. Not me
Right,
personally being that person, but me being the person saying, I think we should wait. I think we should hold off.
right.
You know what I mean? But then to say, all right, well, that's, and being
And that's
upset
people too understanding like not now doesn't mean no,
doesn't mean no.
right? But that's also going back to like what, like day two, planning, being specific, right? Like you can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this. You haven't given it any thought. You haven't even, and I say this, with considering everyone, you haven't even taken the time to put that out into your spiritual universe to get a clear answer as to, is that the mission that you need to be working on right now?
Say that, Susan.
Right? So it's like you just like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna be like this. Ah, boom,
Mm-hmm.
here it is. But you don't even know if you have the resources to even do that. You don't even know if you have the internal capacity for that because
Mm,
you haven't been specific. You're not intentional. You're just trying to check off something. You're not listening to different perspectives. You're not opening yourself up to that, right? And
right.
so, and then you want to know, why am I failing? Why am I not having positive behavior change? Why
Mm-hmm.
am I keep getting stopped at the same place
Mm-hmm.
every time? Like I get this far, then I stop. I get this far and I get stopped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because this thing is a process. It's not a fly by night, jump up, pull a rabbit out your hat. Like you got to put that work in.
So we got a comment. Hey, Malika.
Hey, Malika.
She goes, it could be fear of who. She goes, hi. It could be fear of it could be fear of who you put your trust into. You never know who can follow through. And she was giving us a smart on what was being
Oh,
said.
it's this hand. Cool,
And
cool.
I agree with that. You don't always know who you can. So here's the thing with that. Fear, when you're going into something, and let's use that one as an example. If you choose to go into something, right, it's more of go into, and this is what we're saying about being in terms of support anyway. It's going into it with people that you kind of know will give you that support, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you are in a space that you have to collaborate with others that you may not be sure of, okay,
Right.
that's a different thing, right? So maybe it is about hearing the collective first before
Mm-hmm.
really expounding on, or you can expound on your point and what you might need support on, and then listen to the collective and hear what they have to say, and then making adjustments from that in directions that you may want to go, because you might have to adjust when you're
Right.
collaborating with others that you're not, maybe you don't quite know. And I've done this in different settings. You one can't be afraid to use your voice. um,
Mm-hmm.
because you may see a picture that someone else doesn't see. Your opinions and your thoughts are no less than the next person's. What input you have, no matter how big or how small, is input nonetheless. And so if you're working as a team, every bit of input is very important. It's
Yeah.
no To me, there is no such thing as from least to greatest. Input is input. And if it gets the job done, and I'm mission oriented, so if it gets the mission done, the job done, then that's what we're after, right?
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the things that you want, as an individual, and you're moving in certain directions, I think it's important that that you get with people that you know are going to be honest with you, that's really going to support, and that's basically what we're saying as far as in creating a community of support that's going
Mm-hmm.
to have an investment in you,
In your
um
growth, in your
in
development, in
your
your
growth,
elevation, right? That's
your
the
growth.
stake. That's the stake in the issue. Like
Thank
if they're not coming, if they're not coming, um, if they're not invested in your growth, your development, again, it's worth having an assessment of, are you a part of my supportive community? Are you a part of my support system and my network, right? Like,
right.
and that's why you have, like, I mean, you don't have to, but that's why we kind of laid those tenets out so that people can use that as kind of like a measuring stick, right? Like to measure up against what they have going on to determine, is this organic? Is this healthy? Is this a part of my support system?
Right. So, and I think that's important, right? Like even in you saying that it's good to have a measuring stick when it comes to that. Oh, we lost you.
No, no, no. I have to put my sound machine back on, but I got up and, there's just a
I
whole
know.
lot of movement.
I have to know something, but yeah, I think that is important. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
get your crew together. Know who your crew is.
Right. And that's so important in this process, right?
Right.
How to be supportive. Oh, yeah. So, right, like how to be supportive.
Yeah.
So, even with that, I was looking it up, I was thinking about it, pondering on it, and it kind of laid out um like seven, again, like seven measurements, like seven things to measure up against. And to Malika's point about trusting, right? So
Mhm.
it's like, if you want to identify yourself as a supportive person, one of the first things you got to recognize is this not your job to evaluate, judge, or belittle the person. That is not your role.
Oh,
Like,
you get that together.
pause. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not your role. Don't evaluate. Like, if I'm coming to you with my idea and I'm coming to you with my issue, with whatever it is, it's not for you to be like, well, I'm not sure if that'll work for you. Well, maybe you shouldn't do that right now. You do you think you really can handle that? Like, that's not being supportive. Like, that's shutting somebody down before they get started, right? And so, not only do we want to have something to measure our community by, but we want
Right.
to have these things to measure ourselves by,
Right.
right? Like, how am I showing up for my sisters? How am I showing up for my community? You know what I'm saying? So that's
Well,
one.
yeah. I would just say, be my. And we're gonna get to your question in a minute too, Malika. But I would say, yeah, because that is a check yourself type of situation.
Hmm.
Check yourself, and be mindful
Yep.
of the level of criticism. Define what constructive criticism is.
Oh
Really define
yeah.
what that is. And that's more the point. Let's hear the person out before chopping them up.
Right.
Um,
Because they may have like a big idea, a big thought, a big goal. And it's that they may genuinely need somebody to help them prioritize, and get it together. But that don't mean they need you to shoot it down just to be like, that's too big of a goal, right? So it's like, if you want to be a support to someone, then think about that when you're moving in that space.
think about if you hating too, low key,
Right.
like,
Word.
because it might not even be too big of a goal,
Because
but it's like, are you the one to really be the one to do this?
And that's the whole point of support, is not competition. Because you might be kind of hating on a goal because you low key see it as a competition for yourself, right? And I
Absolutely.
mean, we'll get there over 120 days, the work you got to do on self to be okay with self. But that's something to think about, right? Like, am I hating on your joint because I feel like if you shine, damn, that's just another hit that I can't shine or like
Right.
I'm a problem. So you got to think about that, right? When people
Absolutely.
are coming to you to talk to you about things.
Absolutely.
Number two, don't try to fix another person, right? Like that's not your job. That
Put
is
your cape.
not your role. Right. Take your cape off. That is not your job. That is not your role. You don't need to fix anyone or anything. You need to honor and hold space for people and their experiences. This is why we
Mhm.
talked about again from the beginning, like have that expertise of people with shared experiences. And even with
Yes.
that, like the caveat to that is that even though we may have a shared experience, similar experience, it's still not the same.
It's
It's
not.
not the verbatim experience. So I still have to hold space for how you had that experience. And it's
Mm-hmm.
still going to look different from how I had it. And it's not my
Mm.
job to fix you and tweak it so that your experience is mine because that's what I know how to understand. It's just I'm going to make space for you and how you experienced it.
Right. I agree. And I like that you said hold space for them. And I don't think we do
Yeah.
that enough
No. Right.
for each other as women
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And I consciously do it, right? I think in
Right.
small pockets we do, but we're trying to get to
When
this
we
point.
don't feel like it
Threatened.
impedes on us, right, or
Yeah,
feel
right.
threatened, then we
You
can
don't
do
feel
it.
right, right. And it's not, or if you think this is going to take somebody away from you or whatever the case,
Yeah.
there's various reasons why we don't sometimes show up for each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's something that I would love to see very much change,
More. Yeah.
especially community. And I think we're doing it. I think we're doing it in pockets and we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
more of it, which I
Right.
appreciate with the advent of social media and different things like that. You see women coming together, more women collectives and different things like that. The thing is that we want to continue to spread that love
Yeah.
and say that you can have this in every facet of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
And I think
don't
number
make
three goes without saying, like,
yeah,
don't make everything about you and your experiences. And again, that's holding that space for
hold the
someone
space.
and allowing, and that's what we talk about a lot of times. Like, there's mornings when I come to the walk and I got a whole bunch of just noise like going on in my head. And I'm just like, we 30 minutes into the walk. And I realized too, like, girl, you haven't even stopped talking about this same thing. Like, shut up. Right. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important because sometimes when you're when you're in that space with your support person,
Mm-hmm.
you have to just kind of like throw that up. And if that person is truly being a support to you, they're going to make space for that and not jump in with their personal stuff or jump in with their examples, but they're going to allow you because sometimes we talk our way and we be like, damn, I could hear the solution once
Mm-hmm.
I just hear my voice talking about it. So I think that's important. Don't make everything about yourself and give that person space um, to talk about what they need to talk about. Which again goes right there, right? You gotta accept people for who they are.
Know the people you have around you.
Word. Like I'm not trying to change you. Don't try to change me. Don't
Yeah.
force feed me your thoughts. Don't force feed me your beliefs. Just show up for me genuinely and I will show up for you genuinely.
Genuinely. And it's crazy because it literally is that simple.
That
Because if
simple.
you truly care about somebody and you truly want to see them at their best, then it is just that. Like
Yeah.
it's simply that. I
Simple.
accept you for who you are. But even as a friend, I have to say this. So as a support system, I have to say, as a
Mm,
sister, like I might have to say things that's not comfortable sometimes.
right.
But it's better that it's coming from me. I don't have no, again, like I tell some people, when I say things, I get nothing out of it. But to see you win, if I see another sister happy, okay,
Right.
it don't make me no never
Right.
mind. I'd rather see you happy than see you miserable. And every time that we have a conversation, it's like you're about to choke somebody, or God forbid,
Right.
it may be something that you may not be comfortable with. Let me not say that word, but or you're in a constant state of conflict with yourself or with the next thing or person or situation. Why?
Mm-hmm.
If there's solution. So
Right.
accepting a person for who they are, but also being as honest and
And
real.
also accepting that sometimes people are not ready,
Ready.
right? So they're just not ready.
I'm good for
It's
okay.
and again, it's a process. It is such a process. Okay, it is a process. Like it's that's my word.
The
Process.
work. Because this the
The work.
process to work.
Work. Yes. And
Work.
then being present, right? So
Was
I
like
want to
great.
do number 5 and number 6 kind of together because
Okay.
it says be present, listen to their spoken and unspoken communication. And that's again, like to me, are we being present with each other? Or are we just listening to each other to give our opinion, to give
Right.
our thought, to give our suggestion,
Right.
right? Like just be present, just hold space,
Whole space.
hold space. Pick up on people's body language, right? What they're not saying. Because sometimes, hey girl, everything is good. I'm straight. I don't care. We good. Life is just a bag of apples.
Right.
And the energy off, you know? But if you're present and you're in tune, you'll pick up on that.
I think somebody just said something too on Facebook. Can't see who the user is. Sorry. We have to be careful with that because that goes back to boundaries. We have to uplift others no matter what. Pure heart, willing, and open heart is the key. For some, it takes practice. People don't know how to be. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But this is,
The,
again, right?
us Nasika. Hi
Oh, hey,
Nasika.
Nasika. But that's the thing, right? You're right, and it does go back to
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, and we have to be mindful. But that's also knowing the people, right? Like know who you with, accept them
Word.
for who they are. No,
And not for nothing, that's why 120 days, I mean for us it's 120 days, but ultimately it's a lifetime of being intentional, right? Because I think, to Nasika's point, for some people it takes practice. People don't know how to be. And I think we don't genuinely always know how to have healthy,
mm-mm.
unbiased, unhating ass relationships with one another,
Say that
right?
again,
We don't just know how to do that. And that takes practice and that takes work and that takes intention.
because it's learned,
And
right?
right, because those are learned behaviors for
How we
sure.
even in the state in what we might find ourselves now is because it's learned,
Right.
right? So we try to. It goes back to sometimes golden rule, which is funny. Treat people how you want to be treated. It starts with
Treat it.
something simple to begin with, but then you also have to learn how to move past your own crap, like you just said,
Yep.
your own, but your own biases and different things of that
Hmm.
nature to be able to meet somebody where they are.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of being present too. Being
Yes.
present is not just it's you being present.
Right.
know you, know you in a
Know you.
situation. If it's something you can't handle, be okay with
And
backing
I
up.
think that's the thing that people just shy away from. Like, I've gotten so much better at being able to be like, yo, that is really beyond my capacity. Like, I'm not the person to help you in that space because either I have a bias against that space
Hmm.
or I just don't know enough. And before I do something that's harmful and hurtful, let me help get you to where you can get something that you need that's going to be beneficial. And
Right.
people find a hard time saying that. And again, to Nasika's point, is because it takes practice and it takes um confidence in knowing like I'm good knowing that I don't know everything. I take
Right.
pride
And no one, I
in
don't
the
know it.
fact that I don't know every damn thing. This way you ain't got to keep coming and asking me every damn thing because I don't know. And I'm okay not knowing, right?
Right.
Because then this way there's not as much pressure on me to always have an answer, always come up with a solution. Like I want to be able to say, no, I don't know. Now what I will say though is I'm always willing to learn with you
And
and help you
so
figure it out.
let's go to that. And so what I don't want us to continue to do is I think it's really easy, and I'm not saying that everyone makes excuses. I do think that we have a ability to do that though. And so
Right.
if you want, so this is what all of this is about, right? This is about being in the space of change. So let's put that in perspective. We're talking about when you're in a space of change, when you're in a space of wanting to be a support. Hey, Raya, if you want to be in a space of support, um, I think what we don't want to keep doing is also allowing for excuses either for
Right.
for for certain changes and certain things to take
Mm-hmm.
place too. Um, because this is the point, is to start breaking these chains that have bound
Right.
us.
Yep.
That's the overall point. And not saying that, I'm not saying it from the perspective of that people need to learn, people do, but the idea is make sure that you're in a space to want to learn, and you're in a space to want to change, so that we can build and become better supports for one another. Let me.
Right. And I think our last point for tonight is don't come with a personal agenda.
Yeah, it's not about you.
Not about you.
Not
Don't
about
come
you.
with a personal agenda, right? Like me, like I know so many amazing women, and I'm grateful for all of them, right? I'm grateful for all the relationships I have. Um, but one thing that I think I love is because in all of those relationships, business relationships, partnerships, whatever they be, like I'm always show up as Stacy. So I'm always gonna be loud. I'm always gonna be laughing. I'm always gonna be talking to some sitcom golden girl foolishness all day. I'm always gonna be dancing when I get my food. Like there's just certain things that she's just gonna always do.
Yep.
But I am so thankful for the woman I am that I know how to make space for other women and
Mm-hmm.
just be like, yo, be yourself. Like, girl, I be out here eating like not like just doing whatever. Just be yourself. Like if you come to me and you be like, Stace, I need to talk, like you don't have to sugarcoat it. You only can tell me what you want me to know because
Right.
I'm only going to respond off what you give me.
Exactly.
Nothing, and we talked about this earlier, right? Like, I'm never going to force feed nobody anything. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes to a fault because there are people in my life that are like, no, I need you to be more assertive. And I'm like, nah, I pretty much told you how I felt about that, gave you a suggestion, take it, leave it. I don't really give a damn.
Right.
That's your business.
Right.
Because my thing is, whatever you do ain't going to change my destiny,
Right.
right? I want to see you
Mm-hmm.
win. I'm going to keep you in my circle if I feel like you genuinely want to see me win. And with that, we can win together.
Well,
But
not much of
anything
a
outside of that,
talk.
right? Like what we talking about.
Right. Yeah.
So if you come in with an idea, if you come in with a suggestion, if you come in with a problem, like let's sit down, let's brainstorm, let's figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But we all win together.
Mm-hmm. Um. Yeah. I I have nothing to say about that.
Oh,
That's
mark this down, people.
oh. You gonna
Again,
tell
because I'm just going to always be me. Because
I
I'm
was thinking
always
of
be
that
me.
one. I was like,
Whether
what?
people watching us or not,
No,
me and you, we gonna
I,
always be us.
I was like, don't give me the guesses. Like,
Look, she
what
like,
you trying
wait a
to say?
minute. She know I got COVID. I'm a little slower today.
Like,
She like,
like, nah, you know what?
nah, nah,
No,
nah, nah,
now that
nah.
you just said something, no, no, I feel like what you said was just right. Look, right? You said, ooh, that's right there. Um, that's
Let
I
me
feel
just
the
say
same
this though,
way.
to that point, right? Like we laugh and joke with each other, but that right there, I think with everything we talked about tonight,
Mm-hmm.
that's when we talk about bringing words to life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything ain't a competition.
No.
Everything, like sometimes just give your sister her flowers and be like, yeah, okay, you did that. Boom. And that's it.
I
You
know.
know what I mean? Like, because that's that genuine love, that genuine support. Like, I don't gotta overtalk you. You don't gotta overtalk me. I don't gotta push this. Like, and I think, like you said, like as a community of women, we just don't genuinely have that, which is so unfortunate
I think we
sometimes
need to shed light on it more.
on it, right? When it's
And that's just
happening.
my optimism, right? It goes back to my
Yeah.
optimism. I don't want to. I don't want to keep perpetuating this thought process. I'm. Trust me. I know. I know because I've this. I know that we have our stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I also know that for us as women, we're so resilient. And a lot of times I think we forget that we how much we need each other, truly
Yes.
need each other. Because you know how I feel. I feel like the world be against black women. Like
Of
right
course, all
now,
day,
like
every day.
I hate on this
They
for some
wake
reason.
up with
I'm not
that
sure.
on their mind.
I'm not sure why, because we're like everything, so I don't understand. But
Word, we winning right now and they can't
but
handle
we're
it
winning, but we're still winning. But we are so
because of
much
our resilience.
because of our resilience, but even in understanding we are so much better together. And we got to
Mm,
remember, like, even in a historical sense, times we have always been able to have each other's back when nobody else has had our back.
yep.
And so know that your sister understands you if nobody else understands you. We
Word.
may not go through the exact same
Same
struggle,
thing.
but you understand, but there's something that you have that I may need, and there's something that
Mm,
I have that you may need. And this is how we begin to support and lift each other up. That's it. We don't always have to have the answers all the time. We can sort this out together.
yep.
Make it a point to let you know I'm here for you, and you let me
Hmm.
know you're here for me. Ain't nothing we can't accomplish. So that's what I'm trying to, and this is what this platform and all of this is about, right? Is to get to those points of reminding ourselves of these key things
Yeah.
that we might have forgotten. Because you know what, when you working, you're going to school, you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of your households and your men and this and that. We are everything for everybody except for what we need to be for ourselves and each other.
Themselves. Yeah.
You
Real
understand what
talk.
I'm saying? We're
No, that's
neglecting
real.
ourselves and each other. We got
Yeah.
it for everybody except for ourselves and each other. So
Word.
that's something that I want us to be mindful of always. You know what I'm saying? To keep
Hmm.
that in perspective. There's always a hidden agenda that gots to go. We need to rise together,
Word.
lift each other. I love that. I love that. To go back a little bit, Malika had a question that I thought was really good. Um, where is it? Oh, how can that work? How can that work for someone who has less resources and lack of support? And this is when we were talking about how to
Building an organic community. We have
sit.
to build, like, that's why we're doing this because we're trying to make it that there are less women out here that feel like they don't have enough resources, that they
Right.
don't have enough support, right? Support is stretched as far as wide as you want it to. So I think if you are that sister that feels like you don't have enough support, you don't have resources, I think, get into your spiritual space,
Hmm.
ask for courage to ask for help.
I'm glad you said that because that's where I was at with it. Um, Lack of resources. This I'm always about exhausting everything, right? Before I give up on anything, I don't give up on it. I just try to find as many resources as possible before I can just say, okay, this doesn't work,
Hmm.
this doesn't work, that doesn't work. A lot of times, you do have resources around you. You might just need assistance with identifying those
Those
resources
resources, right?
and remember that you are your resource, right? You have the ability to look up things. If you on social media, you know how to navigate, a technical system,
Hmm.
social networking system, you know how to find resources, believe it or
Yep.
not. So sometimes it does mean being vulnerable sometimes. And I
Hmm.
think that's one thing that we're afraid of. A lot of us
Yeah,
are
of course.
afraid of vulnerability. I'm afraid
Hmm.
to let my guard down a little bit because I'm afraid that someone's going to hurt my feelings. And
Hmm.
what we have to kind of learn to do is realize that we're no longer little girls, we're grown women. And part of life sometimes is having to have the courage to step outside of
Hmm.
ourselves. And I'm saying this from someone who my sister will tell you, I am not a step outside of myself type of person. I'm not quick to ask for help. I'm not. Um, and I've learned to try to be better about that because I
Yeah.
realize that's a flaw for me. And I'm not doing anyone any good if I don't see where I have this flaw.
Right.
So it's the courage a lot of times to step outside
Hmm.
of yourself and simply ask for help. Ask someone who you know may have more resources to you than you. One thing I learned, probably over the last year or two, probably last couple of years, was how to be able to go to somebody and say, "Can you mentor me?"
Yeah.
That was one of the most humblest things I think I've ever done, and I think I've done it like two, three times with women in my life, that I've met, women that I've met who are now a part of my life,
Hmm.
and I'm so happy that they are, because they are truly like true mothers, like true
Yeah.
role models and mentors to me, especially in a spiritual sense, but even in a worldly sense. I've learned how to kind of be okay, and this is like, being transparent. Um, how to step back a little bit and just say, "Hi,
Yeah.
listen, I heard you when you talked about this, pop, 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 and I really enjoyed that. And I was wondering, it might seem kind of weird. I'm sorry, but do you mind like mentoring me? I'm
Hmm.
just looking for to be kind of in a certain kind of space, and I know that there's areas I need help with, and I just feel like you would be the perfect teacher for that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Business, same thing. When I was in my when I did undergrad, I that's when I met Professor Goncourt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, and I wouldn't you would never think we have anything in common. But my this professor, who comes from a whole different background than me,
Hmm.
a whole different side of the world than me, I found her to be a mentor. And I told her that. And so whenever she needed something and she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and she made it a point to kind of help me pull that parts of myself. So public speaking and speaking to her classes and things like that were things that I started doing. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought I could do that. But she saw something in me, but I had to be courageous,
To
step
step
out,
outside.
look to her as a resource.
Resource.
What I would say is, don't be afraid, sisters. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. There's going to
Yep.
be times we have to be vulnerable sometimes, and it's okay. And then guess what? If somebody does hurt us, that's from them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That's not on you for being weak. It's not weak for letting your guard down. It's not. It's strong.
Right. No. Yeah.
Everything ain't a war. Hear me.
Or
Everything is not a war. You know what I'm saying? And we got to start looking at each other as resources and stop looking at each other as threats. And that's
mm,
why we're saying like support is not
not
competition.
competition.
It's not. It's a way for us to network. It's a way for us to grow. It's a
To
way for
elevate. To build.
and this is what this is about. We're trying to get to that next level of life, top going higher and higher. That's what this whole thing is about. And I'm not just talking about financially either. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about higher elevation of self. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? People call it enlightenment. Whatever you want to call it, is higher elevation of self. And that's what
Yep.
we're trying to get to and show the world that, sisters can come together and we're badass.
Right.
Badass when we do. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
So with everything, um, we like to, back things up with scripture. Um, Sister, you want to read this one?
Sure. So our scripture for tonight is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. And it simply says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not into thine own understanding. Um, I think for us, that scripture resonates because, again, we can't do this in isolation. You can't do it just solely dependent on yourself.
Yes.
For Tamara and I, we've been very clear since day one. Our spirituality and our belief in God, and that is the most important thing to us individually and collectively. So, to speak to that part of our spirit and that part of who we are, we definitely put our trust in God.
Yes.
But I think as we think about building community and supporting each other, trust your sister.
Yeah.
Lean not only on yourself, but lean on your sister. Be open to different perspectives. Be open to different ideas. Be humble. Be
Mm-hmm.
courageous. Be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in that space, you will find support and you will get to your next level.
And don't leave, like my sister said, don't negate that spiritual side of yourself.
Word. Lean into that hard
Because a lot of times the creator will put things in your path, will put people
in your path.
in your path. People that you would have never thought, like, why is this person not the
Yep.
last person you would have ever thought of will be that person that be that very resource that you need. You know what I mean? It
Word.
would shock you and everybody else too, but you never know. So it's like this. We don't always understand that happens. I remember one of my mentors always say things happen in the heavens first. It
Oh
happens
yeah.
above
In the
first
spiritual realm.
in the spiritual realm, right? She says it's Shemayim, which means the heavens. So things happen above first. You know what I'm saying? So understand that if you are that person, if the creators in all things and everything. So don't refute it. Don't lean on just what you know. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But have that trust. Trust that God got you. And that nothing is just for no reason. Everything ain't in vain. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
And even your most hurtful moments ain't
There's a
in vain.
lesson.
It's a
It's not in
lesson.
vain.
That's why I said I don't take losses. I learn lessons. Okay.
Word. All night.
Keep that in mind. So we're closing out. We want to thank everybody for your
Thank
comments.
you.
Love it when y'all get in it. It feels good.
Word.
It makes us feel good. Please always feel free to comment, like, and subscribe at Nashay Kyle on Facebook and YouTube, and our open content on Instagram and Facebook at Kyle_warrior. Please also check out my sister Stacy on Facebook at Linnell Heath. We thank you all, even for your support. And with that, we ask for you to continue to support us in what it is that we're trying to do, which is bring sisters together.
Yeah.
So if you would like to support our cause and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build, please feel free to support us at Cash App $Nashay Kyle or at PayPal Nashay Kyle. We thank you for your donations. We thank you for your assistance. We thank you for the love and support all of you give. And we will see you tomorrow for day 7.
For day 7.
I know, just 120 days.
Wow. 120 days, people. But we gonna get there.
That was a good
So
one.
you everybody, peace
Peace
and
out.
blessings.
Have a
We
blessed
out.